Hey there, I'm Rachel from the Workshop Whisperer, and today we're talking about hiring, but not in the recruitment sense. We're talking about who should you be hiring next. Okay, so today we're talking about who to hire next. And in your auto repair shop, you may be anywhere from just yourself right through to having 20, 30, 40 technicians if you are one of our biggest repairers. But what's not always clear, especially if you've never done any kind of work like this before, is how you structure who your next hire should be. Now, when you're down the smaller end of the scale, things can happen like you realize that you're running around all day, feeling like you're not really selling many hours yourself, and your team members, you know that they're selling their hours. And things are sort of starting to get very stressed and fraying at the seams. So this is where we would have a look and see what our overall productivity is, because that can be one of the indications if we have a productivity of 80%, say, overall, that we're getting towards the point where we need to hire another technician. What if you already have a few technicians and you're flat out yourself because you're still going between the workshop and the office, and you know that you need an extra pair of eyes on the workshop floor? I often get asked, should I hire a leading hand? Should I hire a foreman? And these are great questions. And my advice to you, if you're watching this from Australia, is that you actually consult the Correct Vehicle Award with Fair Work Australia, because it does give the definition of the leading hand for you. And you might be surprised to see that a leading hand can have quite a few people that they supervise. And you may not need to go to the step of recruiting a foreman as such. When you do recruit for a foreman and you advertise it, that often means that the people that reply to that are expecting more money than the leading hand. So you do need to weigh up which of those two titles you're going to run with, but just make sure that you are all read up on what the differences are in the award. Now, it's a little bit different in New Zealand and a little bit different in the USA, but the whole idea here is that we make sure that we have one supervisor for somewhere between 2 and 4 technicians. Now, of course, if you're a bigger business and you've got 10, 15, 20 technicians, then you're going to have little teams with a leading hand looking after each team, somewhere probably around 3 to 4 people, maybe up to 5. And then in that situation, you would definitely have a workshop foreman. I also get asked, when is it time to hire a service advisor? Now, this happens when you're sort of emerging out of that team structure where you might have had 2 or 3 people. You as the owner, you're still running around and around from the front to the back. And, as I mentioned earlier, things can start to fray at the seams. What you need to decide, first of all, is, are you as the owner better placed out the front being a service advisor, or out the back in the workshop where you're charging out hours? You need to think about where you make the most money for the business, but also what you enjoy the most needs to come into it. So if you're not enjoying being on the tools anymore, maybe you've been doing it for years and you're starting to notice a few aches and pains, then really consider hiring a technician instead of a service advisor, so that you can move out the front. Now, that does cause a problem down the track, in that if you're the service advisor, what happens when you want to take some time away but the shop remain open? So what we work with in our engine room program with our high performance business coaching clients is we actually design what's called an org chart. Now, you may think that that's just for big business, but even the smallest businesses need to create an org chart based on the vision that they have for the business. It's not good enough to draw a picture of the way your business looks now. Right now, that might just have 3 boxes on it: you, and 2 technicians. What we want to do is to design the org chart for your business of the future. So I say somewhere between 3 and 5 years to get you started, and you draw in all the roles that you would like to be in the business by that time. So there'll be you at the top as the CEO, and then you might have a service manager and a service advisor and a leading hand and 3 to 4 technicians. And that gives us a little pathway as to who our next hire should be. Now, also on that org chart, you're going to have your accountant, your bookkeeper if you use one, and even if that's you doing the bookkeeper role right now, you still put it on your org chart because that's a role that we want someone else to fill in the future. Remember, we don't go into business to be a worker bee in our business forever. We go into business to create a lifestyle that we love. So it's important that we start working on your freedom from the business as soon as possible. So you'll also have a sales and marketing department on there. So sales can be incorporated with the promotions that you do, or it can be a function of your service advisor role, just depending on how you run the business. And once you've got this org chart of the future, you should cost out how much you think it will be for each role to actually have a live person in it. And once we do that part, that's kind of the final step before we can start using the org chart to make or help us make our hiring decisions. So the next time you start to see your technicians are really starting to feel under the pump, they're getting all of their hours sold, you have a look at the productivity, you can see, yep, we are up over 80%, which means that things are getting a little bit tight, so we need to start recruiting now. We always should recruit just before we actually need them, because then we can explode with marketing again to fill them up. It's not a good situation to be so overstressed and you start looking for a technician and try and put them into that stress situation and to help dissolve it. We want to bring somebody in while there's a little bit of space for us to train them up with our the way that we would like to do things and immerse them in our great culture. Let them know what our values are and really get them a good foundation inside our business, and then start filling them up with work. So it's the same thing with your service advisor. You can, after you've answered those questions about whether you're going to be out the front or out the back, you can have a look at how much that role is going to cost you, and you can start to do some calculations with your coach and with your accountant. But I really urge you not to make another hiring decision before you've completed one of these org charts. Now, if you'd like some help with things like this about growing your auto repair shop, it's what we do every single day of the week with our engine room clients. So why not answer a few quick questions and then book a time to have a quick chat with us, and we'll come up with a bit of a game plan and see where things can go from there.